You're tuned in to Steve Megatron on Altered Geek Unlimited.
Hello and welcome to Altered Geek Unleashed, episode 123. I'm your host, Steve Megatron Phillips, and joining me this week is...
Timothy Frog here. No, it's I, Mike the Birdman Dodd. Where's that other tubby guy?
Lost at sea.
Well, you see, I got this awesome message from Mike earlier. Turns out tonight he unfortunately couldn't join us as he has joined a support group for online furry porn addiction. So hopefully he'll have his support meeting this week, and when he comes back, he will be looking at less pictures of furry animals that happen to look like people, and that's all we're really going to say about that. So good luck, you furry bastard.
So what you're saying is the struggle is real.
I'm saying the struggle is so real and exists almost exclusively on 4chan.
Oh, man. That's just disturbing on so many levels.
Hey, well, you know, the fact that he chose to confide this in me shows a stupid level of trust. And
yeah,
two,
like, why would
me?
he tell you?
Exactly. Of all the people in all the world who's going to make fun of me, of course it's going to be me. But hey, I, too, know the struggles of penguin addiction. Because...
Penguin... So the force is strong with this one.
Oh my god, it's puffins and penguins and nothing but, man. That's all I'm saying.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first segment for Altered Geek. This will be episode 123 for Altered Geek, and I am TFG and Mike. Joining me is the SportsGalPal. Hello.
Hi, how are ya?
Don't ask that.
Aw, are we still sad?
So, you think? So here's the thing.
Again, you don't get to whine. I talked about this when I was on your show last time. You New England fans do not get to whine. No complaining for you.
I will be balancing it out. So
okay.
It's just the initial reaction here.
Sure.
So at least the Denver assistant coach or one of the secondary, at least one of their actual management people didn't start bringing out Super Bowl hats and jerseys like those idiot Giants did back in '42. God, anyway. So we are here. We're talking sports. Steve is not here in this clip because Steve, as we found out last week, is not the biggest sports fan in the world. But the New England Patriots played the Denver Broncos for the AFC Championship this year. And the game itself was just one-sided. It's kind of like that old Bugs Bunny joke, folks. Kind of one-sided, isn't it? Because the Broncos just rammed the hell out of us.
Literally, yeah. Von Miller made Peyton Manning. Am I allowed to curse? Or are we keeping it clean?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm gonna say it. He made Tom Brady his bitch.
Yeah,
it was like an episode of Orange Is the New Black, and Tom Brady was a prison bitch, and Von Miller made him his because he was all up there, there.
It doesn't help when your own teammates aren't even helping you. The whole point of having an offense is to also protect the quarterback, damn it.
Well, to be perfectly fair, the Denver Broncos are probably one of the best defenses in the entire league. I mean, of any team. So you knew, right. And they were playing at home, and they had destiny on their side because it's probably Peyton Manning's last stand. You had a lot going against you. Not only that, but it really wasn't. It was actually a lot closer than you think. It was just, oddly enough, bad game time management by Bill Belichick. He's like the grand emperor. So for you geeks out there that don't normally follow sports, the Patriots have been described as the evil empire. He is a dark Sith Lord. I truly believe this. And the Force is almost always on his side. And somehow or another, he lost his mind and didn't go for 3 points, and he went for a touchdown when he shouldn't have. Because had he gotten the 3 points, and he would have, and then they got that last touchdown, it would be a different story. We'd be dealing with New England nonsense again. But thank you, evil Sith Lord Belichick, for not doing that.
Okay, so the other reason why the SportsGalPal is here is because before the game, I am friends with a lot of people on Facebook, and I am also a comic book guy. No, not like the one on The Simpsons, thank God. I read a lot of comics, and I'm friends with a lot of comic writers and stuff like that. Christos Gage, who some of you may know, I believe he is, or did write, or is going to be writing some stuff for Marvel's Daredevil on Netflix, but he wrote, oh man, now I'm drawing a blank. He wrote Justice League Beyond for DC, which is a digital series that he did. He's written a bunch of other comics and stuff like that. He, on Facebook, on the day of the game, his status is, important question. Last week I wore my 2003 AFC Champs hat and SB Champs shirt, and the Pats won. Do I add the Bledsoe jersey today or not risk it? And I'm like, Bledsoe, seriously?
Wow.
Come on.
Wow.
I mean, Bledsoe was all right in his day, but I don't know, whatever.
That's like if you want to be like the Wonder Twins, but you have the stupid monkey shirt. Like it's unnecessary.
Leave Gleek alone. Gleek gets a lot of bad rap.
No, I'm sorry. It's like Scrappy-Doo. How about that? Is that a better comparison?
The Patriots could have used some puppy power on Sunday, couldn't they have? Yeah. A little bit more spunk, because, the Broncos were just demolishing them in every play. It wasn't even about scoring. It was just getting down the field.
Yeah, seriously, the only touchdown the Patriots got was because of a mistake that a Broncos player made, honestly. Mm-hmm. And a weird, could have been a lateral pass, but it was technically a backwards pass, and it was the right call.
Yeah. So this status that Christos Gage had put up, somebody else commented on it about... trying to think of how I can approach this delicately.
No, just say it. This rip off.
Okay, so let's just call this person Susie Q, because I don't want to give a real name.
It is a woman. It is a woman. Well,
it is a woman.
Not me. I did not say that.
Obviously.
Yes.
You know better. You have more brain power.
I try.
So she says, she comments, her first comment is about Christos's decision of jersey choice, and she goes, "Oh well, wear it since you're playing quote unquote." And she did put this in quotations. My Peyton, go ahead and wear the jersey. And I said Brady can outthrow old ass Manning in his sleep,
which is true. Like just basic facts and figures and stats prove that. And Peyton Manning's super old and like seriously held together by glue, like legitimately glue and screws.
I really
legitimately.
I really hope this is his last season. She goes on to say, "My Peyton is the man, blah blah blah." And I'm coming back with facts here, people. I'm not going off of fan service. Right, Brady is winning 8-4 against Manning when Manning was with the Colts, or actually, I said with the Dolts. I mean the Colts. And the Broncos, Brady, at this time, this was before the game, Brady and the Patriots were beating the Broncos in their various gameplay 3-1. Obviously, now it's 3-2. But, and she comes back, well, oh, yeah, well, Peyton's cuter. And I'm like, that has nothing to do with athletic ability, with winning football games. I'm sorry, they're not actors, they're athletes. There's a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's female fans like that unfortunately I have to fight against all the time. And I'm asked this a lot when I'm on various podcasts, like, who's your favorite athlete? And of course I have some that I find ever so attractive and that are on my list of I'm allowed to do things with. My husband's agreed. Every couple should have that list because it's never going to happen. But, it's a ludicrous statement. I want to go back to the fact that it just is another reminder that even if you're not into sports, it doesn't matter what you're into. There's a great BuzzFeed video where there's this one dude and his girlfriend's like really into sports and he's watching, he's like, oh, but then like Game of Thrones comes on and he's all about it and he's talking about the Lannisters and the Starks and the various things, the Daenerys and all that stuff.
And she doesn't care.
Exactly. It just goes to show whatever you're into, you can be passionate about, and that's great. But facts are facts. And as much as I don't want to admit it, I personally like Peyton Manning better just because I don't like personally Tom Brady for many reasons. Yeah. And that's okay. But when you look at on paper, Tom Brady has had a much more successful season overall than Peyton Manning. And you were correct in that. However, you cannot just say, oh, Brady did this, because if Peyton had been in that Bill Belichick system, he would have had the career that Brady had. Brady is Darth Vader. Darth Vader couldn't do anything without the evil emperor.
No, that's not even close, honestly. Brady is... Thank God he's not dead yet, but Brady is essentially Darth Maul. Belichick is Vader, and Kraft is the Emperor.
No. Robert Kraft has nothing to do with this. He's basically a Death Stalker.
Oh,
no,
come on.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm telling you, it's Belichick. He even wears the hood, and he's all crotchety, and he's all scary looking, okay? He is the evil emperor, okay? He's Chancellor Palpatine if we're going to be in the prequels, okay? So again, be excited. I know these things, boys. This is very exciting when a hot woman knows about these things. I'm bringing out my geek. So he is truly the emperor, and yes, Brady is Darth Vader, minus the and the cool James Earl voice, and he has a hot wife. There you go. He made practically twins. So, there you go. He is truly Darth Vader. There are good qualities to him, but really he leans on his emotional whiny side. And he has good hair. There you go.
Yeah. So the whole purpose of us even doing this was to talk about that whole comment back and forth, because that just really rubbed me the wrong way. I know there are women out there who, like you, and actually know what the hell they're talking about when it comes to sports. But, oh, man, I just shake my head at some people.
It's just people in general. I mean, it just goes to show you that trolls come in every gender. and really, honestly, if you're going to get into debate, whether it's, DC versus Marvel, if it's going to be whether or not Star Wars or Star Trek is better, or who is the greatest of all time, is it Peyton, is it Brady, or is it somebody else? The fact is that you can offer facts, but opinions and passion will rule the day. And so sometimes people act irrationally, and also you are reacting because you are very hurt emotionally that your Patriots did not do what they needed to do and get to another Super Bowl. Let's
actually talk about this. No. I was... During the game, yes, I will admit that I was dying inside because that game.
When did you see the comment that really set you off? When did it happen? Was it before or after the game?
With the conversation?
Yes.
That happened before the game even started.
Okay, so we were in an emotional, heightened state because
No.
Yes, you were.
No.
Guys were about to go to battle against.
No. I was being objective. I was not being subjective. I was being objective. I was putting facts out there to her.
You were, but inside, internally, you were dealing with emotional. Again, yes.
I almost didn't even watch the game. I almost forgot about it, honestly. So it was one of those things where when I'm watching the game, I'm dying inside because they're killing us. After the game was over, I made several comments to my girlfriend. I'm like, well, they had a good run. They had an excellent season. The game just wasn't their day. I mean, the Broncos, I'll admit this, and I'm not ashamed to admit this. Even as a Patriots fan, the Broncos were the better team. They just were.
Yeah.
And hey, if this is Peyton's last season, fine, send him to the Super Bowl. Hopefully, who? Because I didn't even pay attention to the other game. Who got into the other? Who's the other team playing that?
Carolina, by far.
Please.
And it
God.
sets up a great narrative because you have literally the oldest quarterback of all time playing in a Super Bowl, Peyton Manning. He's 39, and that's not old per se because that's only 4 years older than me. I want to be very clear on that. But in NFL years, he's like Stan Lee age. Okay. And then you have young Cam Newton, bright and shiny and new and super humongous and ridiculously talented with a very good team that should vanquish the Broncos. So it's going to be a very good matchup. Again, depending on which side you're on. And now you're going to get into these kind of debates. You know how we talk about DC versus Marvel and which house is really better and whose superheroes reign supreme? Now we're getting into NFC versus AFC. And sports fans will do the same thing. Where realistically, you cannot compare the two, but you can compare the two. Because again, they have various similar kind of superheroes, like Avengers versus Justice League. Which one is truly the greatest assembly of superheroes ever? It's kind of the same thing with this. So the Super Bowl, at least with this, we get every year which one is better.
Yeah.
Unlike you guys. Seriously, I don't know if there's ever going to be a way to tell DC versus Marvel. And I know some guys kind of rattled the fence, but is it just me? Am I assuming too much that typically a lot of comic fans, they will choose one or the other. Because my son, I think he's leaning DC.
Oh boy. Well, for me, it really depends, as far as all that goes, and that's a conversation around the time, but it really does depend for me. I like different. See, for me, it's not about which company is better. It's not which company has the better heroes. It's which characters do I relate to? Which characters do I want to enjoy reading or, read to enjoy that character? That's what it is for me. So there's stuff on DC's side. There's stuff on Marvel's side. Like I the whole Superior Spider-Man thing a few years ago, I absolutely love that because it was a completely different direction. Wasn't Peter Parker, who is just old and stale as crap for me personally. With DC, they quote-unquote killed off and brought back my favorite character, Dick Grayson, as the Nick Fury of the DC universe because he's now a secret frigging agent. Are you kidding? I'm so anti-DC and Marvel at this point, it's not even funny. I'm more IDW and all those other comic companies, and I'm just I think the only things I'm currently reading from DC at this point which now it's ended, was the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe comics that they had. So yeah, I don't really give a crap about DC versus Marvel anymore. I did about 10 years ago.
See, and that's the way, honestly, a lot of sports fans are going. It used to be they cared about the AFC versus the NFC. Now, with the rise of fantasy football and analytics, and again, it's basically Dungeons and Dragons only with superhero players. It's fantasy, okay? So basically, the jocks have said, we're going to take what's cool about Nerdland and we're going to turn to ourselves. It's fantastic. It's the best fun ever. So, and that's what's happened. So it's the same kind of culture. So that's what I'm saying, guys, is that you're going, why are we talking about sports? Here's why. If you look at it, if you take away all the details, it's all the same stuff. So I'm sorry she upset you. I'm very sorry that she was stupid.
No, it's not.
But she was stupid. I'm going to flat out admit it. Mike, you're going to be polite and not. She was stupid. That was a stupid argument. You should never resort to looks should never matter unless we're talking about superhero suits.
And on that note, let's get back to Steve and the rest of the show.
So anyway, now that we've steered this down a dark and disturbing path, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Back in school, taking screenwriting classes.
Oh, screenwriting, the thing that broke my soul so many years ago. Myself, this past week, been a lot of really stupid stuff family-wise going on. So some minor drama, which is why there hasn't been a whole lot of Twig content this past week. Although I did discover the wonders of just randomly throwing your controller at the TV and letting Netflix just randomly pick something.
So that gives a whole new meaning to Netflix and chill?
Yeah, kind of. I decided to take a bunch of painkillers because I had a really wicked backache. And I'm like, I don't even care what this hits. So I was fully expecting some European baking show. But instead, I found this really weird movie. It's a movie from, like, the 90s. Shout Factory actually put out a copy of this, like, I think sometime during the summer. It's a Clive Barker movie called Nightbreed. It stars, like, one of the guys from, like, One Tree Hill, like, the dad of, like, Chad Michael Murray or whatever. And it's about... Okay, have you ever seen the movie Little Monsters with, like, Howie Mandel?
It's been a long time.
Okay, but it's basically there's a secret world, there's monsters and shit. Okay. So, picture an adult version of this with boobs and violence. And it is so surreal. It's really weird, but it's probably one of the coolest movies I've, like, ever seen in, like, such a long, long, long time. Great special effects in it. Yeah, I watched that while enjoying cold medication, Percocet, and G Fuel. So that's a wonderful cocktail. I'm surprised my heart didn't explode. And that movie's weird. But it was so cool, though. There was, like, a chick who has, like, porcupine spines in her back who can, like, throw quills. There's, like, midgets that can, like, throw fire and stuff. There's, like, this serial killer dude who's, like, actually, like, a doctor. It's so weird. I'm doing it no justice. But seriously, go on Netflix. You want a really weird horror movie? check it out. And then I was watching Watch Mojo this past week, which is a channel on YouTube. And they did a list about 2-3 weeks ago, and it was called the greatest anthologies for horror movies. And there's a series of movies, they're called VHS. And I decided, all right, I'm really bored. So I decided to watch the second one last night. Man, I forgot how much I love horror movies. This movie was so weird. The one segment I remember, there are two segments that I remember the most. One of them involved a zombie and a GoPro camera, which sounds really stupid, but is surprisingly really, really violent and really cool. Like, zombies attack like a kid's birthday party at one point. And the other one involves a little Yorkshire Terrier called Tank and aliens. It is so weird, but man, if I wrote horror movies, like if I could write a screenplay that didn't involve, dick and fart jokes every 5 minutes, this would be the kind of stuff I'd write. Short horror movies. I don't need millions of dollars. I just need like $20, a GoPro camera, and like corn syrup and like red food dye. But yeah,
very specific.
Oh my god, like it was so intense. Like I forgot just how much I enjoy the magic of low budget movies. Like not everything needs to be Michael Bay or Steven Spielberg to be really, really, really awesome. And yeah, it was just this week. It was kind of like rediscovering YouTube and rediscovering movies. There's this other channel I watch. They're called Cinefix. They have this great. They have these two great lists that I saw. One was the top 10 movie gunfights of all time, which is some of these movies I've never heard of, but they seem so awesome. There was one movie, I think it's called. I know it stars Sean Penn, and he's like an Irish cop who comes back to investigate the Irish mob. And the gunfight in this bar is so intense. It looks amazing. And then the number one gunfight of all time they chose was Michael Mann's movie Heat from, I think, 1993. And man, it's weird because Steve, you're like a kind of cinema nerd now. You will actually appreciate this. All the movies, you know how most gunfights they do them in studio, and that's all like Foley sound and everything.
Yep.
So he had 3 different studios working on this. He hated the sound mix. So he took the actual blanks, like the actual gunfight in the street, took that audio and left it as is. So you hear it like reverbing off of buildings, bouncing off of cars. It sounds so surreal. It's amazing. And then the other thing I saw was top 10 movie dogfights. And the best dogfight of all time, it's actually a French movie from I think 2 years ago. Wish I could pronounce the name of it because my French is terrible. And it makes you thinking, man, maybe I should get into this whole movie thing again because I know enough people in Hollywood where they probably listened to one of my ideas once. So, I don't know. Now that I've gone on this tangent.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be probably involved with another short film not too far from now. So that'll actually be kind of cool. So yeah, I'm doing that, and then I have wow, my brain is so scattered. I've been working on Geekcast Radio. I've been doing the GCRN Awards, that which I was like a day late getting the tallies posted, but it's up now. Some of the selections this year are a little bit different, which is interesting.
Such as?
Yeah, since this is going live anyway, about the same time it's online. Actually, it's already online. Some of the show selections, like last year, was dominated by your typical, basically any show I liked, which was funny to me because I didn't put the list together. It just happened to land that way. But like TV dramas, there's like Fargo, Mr. Robot, Blacklist, stuff like that. TV comedy, you got Big Bang Theory and Last Man Standing, but then you got, Silicon Valley and stuff like that. Superhero, or for action adventure TV, you got like Arrow, Daredevil, Ash vs. the Evil Dead. Like, I saw Ash vs. the Evil Dead pop up a lot.
And are these things that people kind of wrote in, or these are things people can?
Yeah, how I kind of decided this originally is I wanted it open entry, unlike all these sites that they give you their list, and I kind of felt that was kind of wrong in some degree. Like, I do have my own select list, but I'm not as diverse in my selection as some people. So I figured if the listeners could be a part of it from the beginning through the entire process, nobody knows what's in it except for me. I'm completely fair because I don't care to tweak it. Like, I know some people would want to tweak it or, steer things in their direction. I just don't care. I printed out the entire list, and I was sitting there, and I was, like, counting each tally. Some of them I was like, yep, that one definitely is on the list. That one's definitely on the list, because I got tired of counting. And then some of them were, like, 3 or 4 way tie, so I had to throw my weight to, like, one or another. And I tried to be fair about it, because based on what I've heard of, like, critical acclaim for some of these shows, unlike when we did the top 100 television shows where I was kind of throwing my weight towards what I enjoy. So I was trying to be as unbiased as possible with if I had to throw my weight, which only happened like 2 or 3 times. But now it's on to the top 5 selections, so there's a drop down so people can select for each category what they want.
Now I gotta ask, is Game of Thrones on there?
Checking. Yes, once.
Yes.
Under best returning. It's under no other category though.
That surprises me, but then again,
it didn't rank very high this year, which was surprising to me, but neither did Walking Dead.
Well, you know what? I can't say I'm totally surprised at that, because the last 2 seasons of both or the last season of each show, Walking Dead and Game of Thrones, they had moments, but overall the season was just kind of average with a few exceptional moments. I think Game of Thrones, I want to say season 4 was really good, and Walking Dead
hasn't been good in years.
I don't know. I'd not this past season had really good moments, but I think the season before it was a little bit better. Plus, when they pulled the whole bullshit with, hey, guess who's not dead? That was a little bit of horse shit. I'm thinking, man, you just killed all your credibility there. At least Game of Thrones has the guts to pull the fucking trigger.
And then they don't try and fix it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or they come back as a nice zombie.
Exactly. I mean, like, if he's dead, he's dead. Unlike, I'm waiting for The Walking Dead to pull their version of the Red Wedding at some point, but too many people on the show, like, I'm sorry, Daryl Dixon will survive a nuclear blast at ground zero. He will never die. Michonne will never die. Rick will never die. Carl?
He could
unlikely,
die.
Yeah, unlikely but possible. Maggie? They don't have too many females on that show. I don't see her going away anytime soon. Glenn is going to die at some point because he dies in the comics. So I can't say, I don't know. Like, there's so many people in that cast that seem protected now that I don't know. It's kind of like you've taken the wolf's teeth. Unlike Game of Thrones, they're like, hey, guess what? Do you like the Starks? Yeah. Do you really like these people? Yeah. Guess what? They're all dead in one episode. Like, I remember when first time I saw the Red Wedding, where they kill off Rob and Lady, can't think of her name, basically his mom and everybody else, like this this entire house betrays them and wipes them out from the North in one episode. I'm like, holy shit! And I'm thinking, wow, George R.R. Martin, not one with whom the fuck fictionally. And I'm allowed to say that once because this show is now PG-13. I've now said it once. Any other time will now cost me $1.
Yeah.
Because we're responsible like that.
Yeah, we try.
I try. But yeah, it's just, I'm really surprised those shows did not rank higher. I genuinely am. But what are some of the other shows that kind of showed up on there?
It's actually kind of funny. Flash showed up quite a few times. Arrow showed up a couple times. Daredevil showed up a couple times. Mr. Robot showed up a couple times. Supergirl showed up once. Blacklist, Ash vs. Evil Dead, Supernatural, Man in High Castle, Master of None, Unbreakable. A lot of it's the same stuff, but it's depending on category.
Ash vs. Evil Dead was an unexpected joy this year. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with that next year. I haven't seen the season finale for it, though. I've been kind of saving that for a rainy day.
I need to actually watch the entire saga just because I like Bruce Campbell, but
honestly, man, I am so surprised how well that as a show works. I mean, it doesn't overstay its welcome, because the first episode's 40 minutes. Every episode past has 22. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It gives you just the right amount of absurd violence and really weird comedy. And Bruce Campbell never gets old. He knows exactly when to make an entrance and exactly when to make an exit. That man is a national treasure. Seriously, his DNA should be in the Library of Congress or something. I'm really surprised how well that show worked. I'm really hoping season 2 is just as consistent. One show I want to talk about, because I just saw it. It just premiered last week or 2 weeks ago. Legends of Tomorrow, DC. This is my attempt to get back into superhero shows that are DC, because I follow The Flash, but that's the kind of show I'll binge watch during the summer. Watched it, not bad. I kind of wonder if it's going to walk the line between being as optimistic as The Flash, where it's got its humor and can have its more serious moments.
Well, I know next week they're going to have, I didn't see this week's yet, they're going to have Oliver Queen, Green Arrow, with the goatee and the full getup like that.
That'll be kind of cool. I'm looking forward to that. I'm actually surprised how well a lot of the chemistry works on that show. It took me forever to realize who Rip Hunter was. I'm looking at him and I'm listening to his voice. I'm like, where do I know you? You're the guy from Doctor Who! And it took me forever to realize that was Arthur Daybell or whatever. But
that's Booster Gold's daddy.
I'm thinking, that's awesome, man. I genuinely enjoyed his performance. I kind of wonder how Hawkman and Hawkgirl are going to fit in, because they almost seem almost a little too ridiculous, almost. But I love the guy that plays Captain Cold, Wentworth Miller.
What's funny is him and Heatwave are both going to be returning to Prison Break.
That'll be interesting.
And they've already figured out how to write themselves out of that hole they put themselves in at the end of the series.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Prison Break, that's a show I actually have a surprising connection to. The guy who wrote the show, Nick Santora, a friend of mine interviewed him during college, and then I interviewed him for a Twig podcast years later. And I'd always kind of stayed in contact with Nick. He did a spin-off show for A&E called Breakout Kings, same universe.
Which didn't survive
past the second season. Unfortunate. Near the end of the series, there's a character who is a rodeo clown. That character is named Mike Dodd. my friend Nick put me in the show. I get arrested for like alimony or something, which I always found that kind of funny. And that's my thing right now. If I have anybody who writes a show in Hollywood, I always try and get them to weasel me in some really weird capacity. Like right now,
see, my name's not very difficult, so
I'm trying like really right now because I'm friends with like Adam Goldberg, who writes the kind of Goldberg show for like ABC. I'm trying to convince him. I'm like, okay, dude, you've done Double Dare. You've got Weird Al on your show. You've had wrestlers on your show. For the love of God, please do a Dungeons and Dragons episode and just have me as a PC. I would love you forever. Sincerely, Mike. I don't know if it's going to happen, but the fact that he had Double Dare on his show just a few weeks ago really gives me hope. There's the possibility, like the sky's the limit with this show. I'm really hoping at some point some show will rebuild the set to Legends of the Hidden Temple.
that would be awesome.
I'll look up. Like I have a torrent. I downloaded this one like 2 or 3 years ago. I have like 10 episodes of that show in fairly decent quality, and I forgot just how much fun that show looked. We had one in Canada. It wasn't as ridiculous as Double Dare or Legends of the Hidden Temple, but it was called Uh-Oh, and it starred this ridiculous host. His name was Wink Yahoo, and it was like a game show. You do these stupid physical challenges and all this thing, but there was this dude in a hockey mask called the Punisher. I think that was his name, and he'd put you in this giant glass tube, and he'd cover you in the same slime as I'm pretty sure from You Can't Do That on Television. And I remember this show as you destroy your house.
The cat being a retard.
And I remember,
She's like, I'm diving.
and I remember this show traveling across Canada, and they'd always have advertisements like, "Hey, do you want to be on Yahoo or sorry on Uh-Oh? Come on out to so and so." And you know what makes me sad, Steve, is we don't see shows like this anymore. And I'm really surprised, especially in the era of YouTube. You'd think a studio like Maker or something would be like, hey, let's give someone $1 million, which is admittedly peanuts now, to make a show. Spend like, I don't know, $10,000 an episode, which is once again, I know, peanuts when you really look at it. And make a game show for kids again, run it exclusively on YouTube or something.
That would be cool.
And get like, I don't know, like PewDiePie to host it or something, because it's not like he's not super popular or something like that. And I don't know, it always strikes me these days how kids' television, in terms of the animation, it's fantastic. It's honestly never been better. But in terms of live action stuff, I don't know, because once again, to relate my own tales of YouTube, well, last week I was really sick on like last Saturday. I ate like a bad taco or something. So I'm watching YouTube and I found a thing. I just typed in Snick, which is what Nickelodeon used to do on Saturday nights. Somebody had recreated with commercials an original broadcast from 1993. So you had like all that. There was some sketch show whose name I completely forget, but they had Clarissa Explains It All, Rugrats, Rocko's Modern Life, and all these other great cartoon shows. And I got to thinking, you don't see the live action shows outside of Disney very much these days, or the Nickelodeon ones are so weak as to be not memorable. Like, think about that. What's the last memorable live action kids show you saw that was at least on some level entertaining? It's hard.
Yeah, I can't.
I would argue, and this is because Blair, because for those of you that don't know out there, my wife is a teacher, so she has to be hip to what the kids are watching. And Degrassi is a live action show, but it's more serious and more like serialized drama for kids, not like funny haha sketch show. And it's pretty hip for kids, but it deals with some pretty serious issues. So a couple years ago, Blair would watch shows like The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, The Wizards of Waverly Place, stuff like that. And I'm thinking, you know what? Honestly, I remember Hannah Montana being a lot funnier than any of these shows. And I can't think of anything recently that comes close to the old Nickelodeon shows like Hey Dude or Clarissa Explains It All, or even stuff like Saved by the Bell or Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I can't think of any shows that are even remotely like that now. Is there a place for that in children's television now?
I would say yes, but I don't know. I think you get more of the, you get stuff like the YouTube React and all that kind of stuff nowadays, and that's kind of the go-to of like entertainment on the internet, stuff like that, or like, because like they have that for kids too on there, and that's about what you see. But same token, I really don't know. I mean, I wish they would do some game show type things on YouTube, because I think that would be kind of cool, because I know that television, there's not really a place for it anymore.
Yeah, because
I
all
think
you
the
really
medium
have
is
now...
still...
Sorry, Steve.
Oh, I was going to say, I think the medium's still important, though.
Yeah, because I think game shows, they're fun. I mean, for example, me and my wife, we'll sit down, if we happen to be in the same room, we'll watch Jeopardy together, which admittedly we do very well at. She kicks my ass at Wheel of Fortune because I don't think like that. Yeah, you ask me obscure trivia. Yeah, I get that. Do you remember when the huge craze was for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yeah.
Like, I remember stuff like that. And I'd say the closest thing we get now for kids and a game show, quote unquote, will be stuff like, say, Master Chef, which is really interesting to see because I think that show's quite fun for kids anyway. But the kids have to be of such a skill level. You can't walk into your average middle school these days and say, all right, I need 10 kids. No, you literally have to search the entirety of the United States and then whittle that number down from like 1,000 to like 10. So, I don't know. I was just thinking about that too. Like, there are other shows as children. I really liked the show Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark, which was basically like, kids' horror movies, quote unquote, but they were always ridiculous in some fashion. And kids these days are a lot more desensitized. You can get away with a lot more violence on TV than you ever could. So I would love to see someone, because I know Tales from the Crypt is getting like a reboot from like M. Night Shyamalan like later on this year or next year, without the Crypt Keeper, which is so stupid. But whatever.
Speaking of stupid,
yeah.
Should we talk about Hanna-Barbera?
Oh my god!
DC?
Oh my god! Why?
It's like, I think first of all we should preface this with DC is planning on rebooting their series again.
So this is like the new 52, right?
Yeah, I don't think they're going with that. I don't think they're doing like a whole universe reboot, but they're gonna phase out things and return some of the characters per se to a new alignment, you could say. I don't understand why they are taking these Hanna-Barbera classics and destroying them like they are.
See, I'd be okay with them doing something like, say, Wacky Races, which admittedly you could turn that pretty funny if you were allowed to just turn the stupid up to 11. But I want you to look, Steve, and the listeners of Geekcast Radio and This Week in Geek. Look at this. Look at the artwork for Scooby-Doo. I can't begin to describe why the hell does Daphne have a rocket launcher?
It's Scooby Apocalypse.
Like, why?
And Shaggy looks like
Should be
Oliver
serving
Queen's
coffee.
face plastered on a bizarre hippie dude with like, yeah.
He looks like a Starbucks barista.
It looks like Starship Troopers meeting like Resident Evil or something. I don't know.
Now, admittedly, if that's what it was, Steve, I would watch that all day because that'd be amazing.
Yeah, but this looks like garbage.
But yeah, this looks stupid. Like, they're even doing this to the Flintstones. You see, I can see them doing this as like a one shot if they wanted to like reboot Captain Cave. Okay, if you could get like Frank Miller to write one issue of like Captain Caveman or Josie and the Pussycats or some shit like that, that'd be funny. But this is stupid because I think they want us to take it seriously.
Well, and then the Flintstones, that just looks like dog snot. Like
why? The Flintstones, that's a show that only works as a show. I can't see that working as a comic book.
Well, especially what they did with it here. It looks like real life people, so like, I don't know.
See, part of the appeal of the Flintstones is the ridiculous caricatures of people. This sounds so stupid as to hurt my head.
I'm actually looking at the images. It makes me want to gag. Like, I don't know.
I don't know. There are certain things I think you could update and be really funny with. Like, for example,
they are doing like a Johnny Quest, which is called Future Quest.
That makes sense.
Which they meet like Space Ghost and the Herculoids.
That actually sounds awesome.
And the art, the characters look the same.
That's ridiculous. But once again, could be awesome depending on how it was approached. But to do it with certain characters like the Flintstones and Scooby-Doo, it doesn't work because it's something about their art styles roots them almost to a certain sense of writing, a certain sense of comedy. And it's not to say those styles can't be updated because, you know, the purpose of art is to evolve and reinterpret, blah, blah, blah. But with those, something like that, something so timeless and iconic, okay, I know what it makes me think of. Steve, I'm going to take you back to 1990-something. And we love DuckTales. We love Donald Duck, right? We love Huey and Louie, okay. Do you know what makes something stupid? Do you remember a little show called Quack Pack?
Vaguely.
Okay.
I didn't watch it.
Scooby-Doo Apocalypse is Scooby-Doo's Quack Pack.
Oh, God.
What's hot right now? The apocalypse. What's something that doesn't fit with the apocalypse? Scooby-Doo. So, oh my God, I just had a terrifying
Now, if they
thought.
wanted to do, like, Resident Evil with it, I would have been down. But, like, this just sounds stupid.
I want Scooby-Doo hunting Cthulhu. Or I want Scooby-Doo going to Crystal Lake or some shit like that to go fight Jason or something. Now,
the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo.
Or, you know, oh my God, I just had this terrifying thought, Steve. Okay, so you know how they're doing wacky races too?
Yeah.
I promise you, I'm willing to bet $5 right now that I bet you the Wacky Races is going to rip off Mad Max in some ways. There's going to be Wacky Races Fury Road or some bullshit.
Well, it's Wacky Raceland. It isn't even Wacky Races.
I want to throw something across the room.
And then, you know what's going to happen. Penelope Pitstop's going to be a $2 hooker.
She's not Furiosa. This makes me so sad. This really does. Because it's almost like they're scraping the bottom of the creativity barrel, or they're going to mental institutions.
Well, I think part of the problem is DC doesn't know what they're doing anymore. And they're just trying to keep up. Because, like, every one of their titles, I give 2 SHITs. Like, I could give 2 cares less on anything that they have right now. I find everything that they're doing extremely, like, I don't know, bottom of the barrel and boring. Now, Blanchard has gotten me kind of tuned into more of IDW or Zenoscope, you know, other comic brands besides Marvel and DC, but I'm not that impressed with anything that either of those big two are doing, other than, like, you know, Star Wars or whatever from Marvel, which is another story entirely, but
that's about the only Marvel book I'm even remotely keeping up with, and I only pick up my books every 2 months at a time, so I have something to read. I don't know. It seems to me like certain companies have an idea what they want to do, and the big two, they're like kind of flip-flopping.
Well, because their comics are doing Lord knows what, and then their TVs are doing something different than their movies. So, I mean, they're all counter, like, Arrow, I heard from last night of what they did on the show. they killed a particular character that has to do with Suicide Squad because they didn't want any more reference to him, which they keep doing every time one of those characters shows up in Arrow, so that they don't have the double reference to Suicide Squad. So what are they going to do? Kill Barry Allen in The Flash when the Flash movie comes out?
You see, you'd think they'd want to keep their idea of the Suicide Squad front and center to get people interested in it and to keep the books selling on the racks. I mean, having multiple exposures doesn't hurt you. I mean, I guess
if anybody's getting confused, they're just, I don't know.
I mean, it's so dumb because it seems like creativity takes a backseat to business these days, and that's really unfortunate because you look at how Marvel treated the Fantastic Four and the X-Men books in the last couple of years because of their deal with Fox. You look how DC treats their TV properties and their comic book properties and their movie properties. It's like, but then again, if you had a true fan in there running things, you have to wonder at some point, would it be better or would it become so fan-friendly where it wouldn't have mass market appeal? I kind of see where they're coming from, but I kind of
need somebody from both sides of the fence, and I think part of the problem is, like, you got the same people that have been running the company for years.
Yeah, and honestly, that's the type of thing they need to bring in either outside consultants or someone who has no interest in either side succeeding, who can give an honest, unbiased opinion. And say, okay, what do you think, Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so? Because I think that's the problem. Like you said, the same guy's been there for like 30 years, doesn't know which way the wind's blowing, but you also can't go to some random internet forum and pick up DC Fan 52 because he'll correct continuity all the way back to the Golden Age, and no one will know what the hell he's talking about. But you also can't pick up some random schmuck who's kind of a fan and kind of not.
Yeah.
Because then you don't. It's so messed up where even people like us, and I would consider us fairly pop culture literate.
Yes.
I don't even think we could fix this.
No. I'm to the point now that I'm literally in my screenwriting class. I'm starting to, because of that superhero classes that I took with the certifications last year. Because we have to write a full-blown script in this class for a TV pilot and a movie, which I'm not really looking forward to, but it's going to help me in the long run. I plan on writing based on my superhero characters I already created, that I'm still fleshing out a little bit at a time, so by the end of the semester I'll actually be writing my story treatment for these characters that I've already created. With a loose continuity that's already created, so like I'll just be basically fleshing it out. I would much rather see what I'm doing than some of the garbage I've been reading lately. But it's I don't know. I'm kind of burned out on the whole comic realm. Other than particular films or particular TV shows.
I want to stay engaged in it, but I think at the same time, I think I'm finally hitting that level of superhero fatigue.
See, I'm not hitting it yet.
It's coming. It's been a long time coming, but I'm starting to finally hit it, I think. Although, and that kind of sucks to say, because I enjoy a lot of the superhero shows. Like, I'm very much, it's no secret on this show, I'm very pro Marvel, but I'm very lukewarm on DC, which it should be the opposite. Yeah, exactly, and it should be the opposite. But I don't know, and that's why I find myself experimenting more with my TV shows now, which, like I said, in the last few weeks I picked up Game of Thrones. I'm going to try and pick up a show called Black Sails in the next couple of days, hopefully, and just experimenting to see with what else is out there. Because the other shows that I watched, Walking Dead doesn't come back for another couple of weeks. Fear the Walking Dead, I think, comes out in April, which is a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. But even then, like we're saying in the beginning of this show, are those shows starting to lose their teeth? I don't know. It's a very interesting time to be a fan of fiction on television because there's no way to keep everybody happy anymore.
Nope. It's the internet. We all piss and moan.
Pretty much. I mean, and it sucks too because we are in the golden age. When you really think about it, of creative media, like you could never get away with shows like this 15 years ago. I mean, I remember when we used to struggle to find good science fiction or good fiction on TV. Hell, look at it this way. Do you realize Buffy the Vampire Slayer is almost 20 years old now? A show like that on TV? Nothing. No big deal. What do you got? Oh, Supernatural, Lucifer, Grimm, Once Upon a Time. You have all these supernaturally influenced shows. No big deal. Who cares? Whatever. Yet, back then, you had Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel. So, same universe, but, I can't think of anything else that existed around that time that wasn't exclusively on, like, Sci-Fi or UPN or something. Because even the Star Treks were starting to, because I think the last Star Trek ended in what? We had Enterprise ended in what, 2004?
2005.
Yeah, 2005. We had Battlestar Galactica. And I remember it being relatively quiet outside of, those networks that were super hardcore into that. It wasn't until a show like The Walking Dead kind of kicked things off with a renewed interest in all these weird sci-fi programs. And it's not like there wasn't good sci-fi that existed during that time. I just can't think of any that set the culture on fire like the way those shows did. I mean, really think about that. I mean, right now, we are spoiled for choice. And yet, like you just said, all we do is bitch and moan.
That's pretty much what it is. I mean, that's the internet. That's what we do. It's even gotten kind of worse, like, over the last few years, I think. But somebody I know on Facebook posted, and I probably shouldn't do this because, like, it's technically bashing a site, but I'm not, like, physically saying that I'm bashing it, but I kind of agree with the statement. He said that Movie Pilot, I don't know if you're familiar with that site.
I've heard the name, yes.
Is clickbait garbage. There are so many junk articles for Movie Pilot, it's a giant cesspool. Which I have to agree, because every time I see an article and they have these, like, wild, stupid concepts that people just, because anybody can write for it. It doesn't matter. There's no, as soon as you type something, you can publish it. So it's like, oh, I got my name out there. It's like, I can post anything I want, and it doesn't have to make any sense or have any kind of, like, editor look it over. It's just, it's a free for all. And they've tried getting us to post stuff, but, like, we do podcasts. We don't do garbage articles. So, it's like the thing about, oh, Anakin is Snoke. Oh, Porkins is Snoke. Stupid concepts like that. Like they just like creating clickbait.
Now, you said, Steve, anybody can submit things, right?
Yes.
I propose an idea to the trolling of moviepilot.com. So you were to create a fictional alter ego. Let's call him Steve Dodd Blanchard or something. I don't know. Some combination of all of our names. And I think you should just post, be serious, but be ridiculous. And sort of be like, who's the true bad guy of Star Wars? Wicket the Ewok. And just post random stuff. And it's just, ultimately prove this site will post nothing. And hell, maybe this would be an idea for your screenwriting class, because in essence, you're taking down a very popular site with complete inane ramblings. So maybe you'll become internet famous. There's a guy I know who writes terrible fan fiction. He posts under the name Peter Chimera, and he's actually a really, really good friend of mine. And he will post these stupid... He knows they're stupid. But someone out there, Steve, will take it seriously.
I know, and that's the sad thing.
So your mission is to write 5 articles of something completely batshit insane, but do it with a straight face. I think you should do this, Steve.
All Jedi survive on desert planets by eating cans of bacon bits for 30 years.
Because it ages them so much that nobody recognizes them.
Because the bacon bits dry out their skin just as much as the sand does, so they age infinitely worse.
And I bet you could post something like that. Just post a picture of Ewan McGregor and Alec Guinness and say, look, that guy ate bacon bits for fucking 20 years. Whoops. Okay, I guess I owe someone $1. This is what happened to him. And as long as you can provide the flimsiest of circumstantial evidence, either someone will believe you or someone will tear you apart. But regardless, you got their attention. I think you have to do this, Steve. or you should write your magnum opus for the Scooby-Doo Wacky Races mashup that turned into a 1990s romantic teen comedy. I'm sure there's brilliance in this idea somewhere. But my idea is to completely troll them, screw them up. And it's funny, though, because people give clickbait articles a hard time, and as well they should, but we're guilty because we read them, because we know they're stupid. Hell, I'm guilty of posting clickbait articles sometimes because, you know what? That headline sounds interesting. It got my attention. I guess it worked.
I've now started looking at the URL.
Yeah, like, there's certain ones I won't post because I know they're complete horse crap. Like, I hate it when people post, like, I don't know, it's more for political and scientific stuff that really bothers me. There's this one floating around for a while, and it was so-and-so city has been chosen for the new season of The Walking Dead. Do you remember that?
No.
Oh, my God. For my Facebook for, like, a month, people were like, Toronto or Hamilton or Guelph, they're going to shoot the new Walking Dead. No, they're not. Are you stupid? Have you watched the show? Do you not know? You cannot mistake Northern Ontario for friggin' Georgia. No matter how good a set designer you are. And just all this other stupid crap, or people will be like, did you know on an ATM, if you enter your PIN number backwards, it will call the police? Stuff like that. I'm like, Jesus Christ, Snopes it before you post it. And it's funny because it's always the same people I see doing this. So, very much because I believe in the power of positivity and stupidity, I'm wondering if there's a way I could harness this for political or financial gain. It is an election year, Steve. We could do this. We could take over your country. I don't know how yet, but we could. I'm sure there's a way to do this with clickbait articles, stupid YouTube videos, and Facebook comments. These are the 3 power weapons we have.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad to think that an entire population can be manipulated through that. But like we said very early in this conversation, it's the medium. And the internet has no stupidity filter. In fact, it's a stupidity enhancer, if it's anything.
Isn't it, though?
It's tragic, because I'll see some people post some stuff on Facebook or Twitter or wherever. I'm thinking, man, who ties your shoes for you first thing in the morning? Or how do you get through the day without being punched in the face at least 3 times? Like, it's ridiculous the amount of stupid crap I see. And it's either people talking about either very serious issues and getting taken off on some bizarre sidetrack, or it's some bizarre Tumblr logic with that site. Man, if crazy manifested into a URL, that's that website. Or also people post such really weird political things that you wonder, are you from this planet? Like, can I see your Earth citizenship card, please? Like, I really don't understand it. Like, jeez. I don't know, man. But there has to be a way we can take advantage of this and get rich off of it. There has to be a way.
Oh, that would be glorious if it were.
So send your suggestions to Geekcast Radio.
Yeah.
Don't steal the idea, because it's our idea now. I don't know. Speaking of really stupid things, Steve, I saw this past week, and I wanted to ask you, because I'm pretty sure you live near here. What's going on with the water?
Oh, in Flint, Michigan?
Yeah, like, because you live pretty close there, don't you?
I actually live 20 minutes from there. My mom lives in town, and then I work in that town.
So, do you have, like, a third arm growing out of your head or, like, anything yet?
Considering I haven't drank their water in, I don't know.
A couple years, I'm hoping?
Yeah, it's been years.
Okay,
but
good.
The thing is this water issue has been going on for at least a decade. It's just that
It's now to
it's
the
an
point of
issue
no
now.
return?
Well, the thing is some of these pipes have been replaced in the 70s, but there was no people didn't keep record very well back then. So they're not sure how many people's houses, so they have everybody getting a tester. And the sheer stupidity of the government is they're handing out these Brita filters, which, mind you, do absolutely nothing for the water. They do nothing. Like, they're handing them out for free. Like, you can go up there, you have to have a Flint address, but they'll hand you these things every day if you go up there. To, like, your local firehouse or whatever. They're actually going door to door with the National Guard and police, checking you off a list that you got a filter, you got a tester, and you get cases of water. Some of the water that they're giving is from pop companies, so they come in like cans that are silver with no paint on them, and they have an expiration date of like 2 months, and they taste carbonated. Because some of the people have talked about it. Now, if they give you a bottle, you're fine. But the filters do nothing. They've determined that the entire infrastructure needs to be replaced. Now, mind you, I'm pretty sure the entire United States is made with the same material. So I'm pretty sure the entire country is going to need this problem fixed eventually. And they've actually found another city in like Ohio that has something similar, but it's still nowhere near the rate of Flint. But the problem is the governor and all these people that are in charge deemed years ago to switch from, well, they switched from Detroit water, which comes from like Lake Erie, to recycled Flint water, which, mind you, it's clean because they dump so many chemicals in it from their water treatment plant that's,
But isn't that what's causing the problem? It's from a thing that's part of the water purification process.
Yeah, and because they put so many chemicals and chlorines and bleaches in the water, it's eating the lead from the pipes. So in turn, the lead is disintegrating and it's going into the water system, so everybody's drinking it. So when they decided to cut money and do this, now, mind you, 2 years ago, General Motors said after it started eroding and eating away at the metal on the vehicles when they would go through the cooling process after stamping them, and it was eating away at the metal, the Flint water. So they had to switch back to Detroit water. So they had a special pipe that they piped into another town so they could get Detroit water still. And they did it right away because they didn't want any part of that. Now, if Flint had stayed on the Detroit water problem, yes, they would have had lead pipes still, but the lead levels would have been acceptable. But because they decided to go on their own, instead of staying on with everybody else, they caused the problem. But General Motors, like I said, they switched 2 years ago, knowing that this was an issue. We knew it was an issue because we're a dealership of General Motors. One of the guys that works in the wash rack even told me that because he could see the blotches on the cars when he would wash them, and there's no way you could get them out. Like it would just stain the paint. But there was nothing we could do about it because we had to wash the car. So he had the water tested. It came back, bad because he knew somebody at the water water department. So like we all knew it was bad 2 years ago. So most of us like either drink pop or we bring our own water. So we don't have to have it from Flint. Mind you, most people would drink the coffee that was there, which came from Flint water. So they're probably like swimming with lead in their bodies at this point. But
and I can't wait to see what kind of legal battle's going to come out of this, because you know something's going to happen.
Well, and the messed up part is they're still telling people to pay for their water,
like,
which is still 3 times the amount of it's 3 times the amount a month is what it cost me for my 3-month bill.
That's ridiculous.
And they can't even use it. They can't drink it. They can't cook with it.
And you can't bathe.
They can barely shower with it because it breaks out your skin. Now, mind you, I'm probably getting contact from it because I washed my hands. You know, you go to the restroom, you're going to wash your hands. So, like, I'm probably getting some of it on my hands every day that I go to work. So it's probably soaking into my skin. So
yeah, but you're probably not going to mutate. Well, likely anyway.
No, but I mean, it's still the whole fact of the matter is that this was all avoidable. It's just because they had to save the almighty dollar. Of course, this is the same governor that won't fix the damn roads, and he's just bought himself a couple $1 million house in another city that's, you know, like an hour from Flint, and he because he doesn't want to stay in the governor's mansion, and then in Lansing, so he also is the same douchebag that he created Gateway Computers and then ran it into the ground, and then he's also the one that killed the film program incentives. So like no new films are really coming here because we have no incentive money to draw feature films into Michigan anymore. So yeah, they're batting 1,000 here. Like nobody wants to come to Michigan. Everybody's like getting their degrees or getting the hell out. Like they won't even let people sell their houses right now because of the lead.
I'm trying to think, what's the best thing the 2 best things that come out of Michigan? I'm trying to think, what are they? RoboCop and Axel Foley. I've got nothing, Steve. I apologize on behalf of the planet to your state.
My state's just stupid. Like I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. And then you got the mismanagement of like managers of the city that were appointed by governors, and then you got, you know, these mayors that, you know, it starts from like 15, 20 years ago, though, from a mayor that embezzled a crap load of money, put the city in debt. So it's been one train wreck after another.
Man, your country sucks. I don't get it, man. I mean, and I realize this is Altered Geek, but you have to realize sometimes these things affect our lives. But I just cannot believe the stupidity that happens in your country almost day to day.
Uh-huh. Well, it's just like the healthcare stuff.
Man,
they don't want to give you any subsidies or give you like Medicaid or Medicare or something is like the best medication or medical insurance you can get, which is provided by the government, but you have to be in poverty to get it.
You know what's weird? It really boggles the mind, and maybe this is just me as a Canadian. Like, I'm surprised more countries don't have universal health care. Just honestly, because you and I do the Star Trek show, which we haven't done in like forever, but one of the tenets of Gene Roddenberry's future was like nobody left behind, so to speak. Do you not think like healthcare, whatever, should just be free? Pay the doctors whatever they deserve, and just that's the end of it.
Yep. Just
take the profit out of life, so to speak. Because it's so weird though. Because I remember there was another person who was really, really, really sick, and the only thing keeping them alive was like an $8,000 treatment. I'm sorry, you shouldn't have to die because you can't afford a car payment or some bullshit like that. You know what I mean? It's really sad. It's really depressing.
Well, it's like I have this like pain in my hands that I've had since I was a kid. Mind you, there's nothing they can do about it. I've gotten them tested for carpal tunnel. I don't have carpal tunnel, so they say I still think it's damaged nerves in my hands, but they throb and ache all the time. So like when I'm at a computer, when I'm not doing anything, like they just hurt like hell. So I constantly have to, rub my hands because they hurt. And so I go to the doctor the other day, first checkup I've had 3-4 years. They I had a bunch of tests run just because I haven't been to the doctor in years, and I haven't had any tests run in probably 15 years. When I lived with my parents, got a tetanus shot, got blood drawn. High blood pressure and high cholesterol run in my family. So my mom's like, get that tested. So I did. My blood pressure came back fine. They, how they take the urine sample and all that crap. That came back fine. They checked for high cholesterol. I'm good there, except I got low cholesterol. Like, they said I'm low cholesterol.
Well, Steve, go eat yourself a couple of Big Macs.
Well, and I'm kind of like, this particular doctor, like, their excuse for everything is go exercise. And I was waiting for it because, like, I didn't hear it at all. So when they told me the results of that, then they're like, just get some exercise. I'm like, yeah, that's like my entire problem right there. I don't exercise, right? Granted, I don't, but still, that ain't going to cause low cholesterol. Low cholesterol is like either something that's going to turn into something life-threatening later, or I'm not eating enough saturated fats. But I'm doing a veggie diet right now with my wife because it's an experiment for her podcast.
Yeah.
Just, it's easier for her if I do the same thing. So
we tried going vegetarian. You know how long that lasted?
A day.
About 2 weeks before I just looked at Blair. I'm like, look, man, if you don't bring me something that has a face in the next 10 minutes, everyone in the next block is going to die. Well,
I will say that some of the food does taste pretty similar, depending on how you cook it. But
now, do you mean pretty similar to shit or good?
No, I mean pretty similar to real meat. Like, there's ways that you can make tacos or like meatballs or stuff like that without really making it taste any different.
We had a chickenless chicken, and I can't even begin to describe to you just how insanely gross this was. But then again, I've had a couple of decent veggie burgers in my life.
I don't like veggie burgers because to me I'd rather have a hamburger. So it's I can't get past that. But like the stuff like tacos or like, the fake meatballs or stuff like that, I got past that pretty easily. It's when it comes to something that I know what the original tastes like and it's extremely good, and then I get that, I'm like, nah, I'm gonna pass, thanks, And so next month we get meat back, but we're going on a low sugar diet, like a sugar detox, because we have so much sugar in the house of food, which I could use it too because I get cavities a lot. So it's gonna be interesting.
It sounds harder than what it is, surprisingly. Having low, actually, something that I recommend if you want something really good. It's almost sugar-free, almost. It's only 25 calories a cup. It's a sports drink I drink called G Fuel. Their grape drink. Have you ever had Freshie as a kid?
No.
Okay, well, this thing tastes just like Kool-Aid, but with 90% less sugar. You almost can't tell. It's ridiculous. Like, this G Fuel stuff, it's also a lot of professional gamers drink it. And it's ridiculous. Like, seriously, go to gfuel.com and it's, oh my god, I think there's like a sale this weekend for like 30% off or something. But that's something I would recommend. I don't know how we got on this topic.
I don't know either.
It all
I think
came
it went
from Heavy
Flint
Water and Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. So last week we had a guest from BlogTalkRadio, the SportsGalPal. She has a podcast of the same name and talks sports from a female perspective, which was different. We've never really had a female guest on here Plus,
you're telling me I missed the ending of the Sausage Fest around here?
yeah, it was funny because she kept putting Blanchard down because and this is he kind of deserved it though. And I'm gonna read the comments from last week's episode. Connor Murphy says, "I got a serious Eeyore vibe from Mike this episode. Every time someone would bring something up they liked or enjoyed, he'd be the Debbie Downer." He says, "Found it funnier and funnier as the episode went on."
And I was depressive Blanchard.
So I was commenting. I was like, yeah, I thought of that SNL skit the entire time, like the Debbie Downer, the wah wah, during the whole thing. So it was funny, because like she got talking about sports, and I was like, and that's the extent of my sports knowledge, because I was talking about the team mascot for my college, and she starts name dropping like sports athletes, and I'm like, yep, I don't know anything else. And then Blanchard started talking about Boston, and so they started ripping into each other. And she says, that would only come from a Boston fan. But
sports fans
she did call.
Oh, sorry.
She did name drop Canada as Little America.
Yeah, Blanchard did that on a Facebook status this week. He was like, Canada's just Little America. I'm like, yes, but with less crazy people.
But then Brad Lincoln says, I like when you guys bring unexpected guests. It was interesting hearing what a non-geek thinks and believes about the geek world. It's also great hearing a woman's take on sports because there are not enough of them. Some really great women voices get the awful duty of sideline reporting.
I am so glad you guys brought her on. That is really good. I'm glad that you guys didn't bring me in last week, because to get that kind of a response, that's great.
And it was a lot of fun. Funny enough was I started dropping because we were talking about voices for a minute, and she was talking about how her 9-year-old son's into certain characters, like wants to be Arrow, something terrible, like took archery classes and took things so that he could become Arrow when he gets older. And so we started talking about, because Mike says, what, does he want to be a villain? And she's like, oh no, he wants to be Arrow. And I jumped in there with my Joker voice, and she's like, oh my God. Like it's and I just was like, doing it just to be funny. And I did Krang, and then I tried to get Blanchard to do his Boston accent, but he wouldn't do it.
I can't picture that. I'm actually trying to hear that in my mind, and I said,
he's like, I have to park the car at Harvard Yard, because like their R's are like H's. So like right after the episode, what's his name? Seth Meyers from The Late Show. Mm-hmm. He did a skit, and it was like there was like 5 different scenes, and it was like different Boston accent people. And him and everybody else were doing like all these phrases that had a lot of R's in it that were Oz. So it was hilarious. So I sent it to Blanchard because it was messing with Boston people.
You know what's weird?
I don't have anything against them. I think it's actually a cool accent. I just I did it because I was messing with Blanchard because he wouldn't do the accent on the show.
The only time I've ever been told off by a cabbie was in Boston. I could understand about 75% of what they told me. Because it was very hard not to laugh at this guy's face when he's cursing at me in the thickest thickest Boston accent you can imagine. I don't even remember what he called me, but it was something you never quite forget. But it was so like, fuck yeah, like it was just this endless string of sounds that sounded vaguely insulting. And it wasn't until I got out of the cab with the person I was riding with, he was like, man, that guy hates you. I'm like, what did he say? It was amazing. I love being told off in foreign accents, by the way. That's sort of my thing. Man, the best is when you get told off by someone who can speak crystal clear English, but with a Pakistani accent. It sounds so cool and so insulting, but I digress.
That's funny.
Especially because there's a city just down the road from here. It's like half an hour away. It's called Brampton, and they have a very high Middle Eastern and Pakistani population. So a lot of them are naturalized, but I guess they grew up speaking it in the household, so whatever. So they still have the accent, but they speak perfect, crystal clear English. Man, you haven't lived till you've been called a douchebag in that language. It's funny. Anyway, yeah, that's really cool, though, that you got on a different guest there, especially a sports fan, because I find sports fans, they're just as nerdy as we are, just about something different.
Yep, and that's what it came about. It's basically like arguing Marvel and DC with each other.
But they can tell you what the point spread is from like the 1973 Super Bowl or whatever. I honestly find that impressive.
And we're telling them the first time Batman appeared on TV.
And be like, listen here, did you know the Punisher appeared in Amazing Spider-Man 1920 whatever? And they're like, yeah, well, did you know Tom Brady, blah, 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 blah. See, you ask me to talk hockey, I can keep up with you for about 5 minutes. You ask me to talk about anything else, herp-de-derp-de-de-derp. Maybe a little bit of wrestling, but that's about it.
Yep.
I honestly find sports people impressive if they're open-minded about stuff like that. If they're not, they're just some dude bro. But hey, I'm glad, though, that this girl came on the show, was open-minded, and the fact that she took the piss out of Blanchard, that's just an extra bonus.
It was rather funny.
I
will say, animal. I am going to be a part of a crossover episode, maybe even with her at some point on Blog Talk Radio, as well as another podcast that's a trivia-based one.
Ooh.
For movies.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah, so that'll hopefully be coming up later in February. So yeah, that's what's going on there. Did I ever tell you I was in an impression video for Brizzy Voices?
You did not.
Yeah, she did this video for like a countdown of basically it was supposed to be like, you know, 100 voices or something on one of her videos as like a celebration for getting so many subscriptions. So it was kind of funny to watch the video and see myself in there. The video is called 1 Million Voices. I did 2 different ones for the video and attempted to get it, and I think I was number 70. She only took one of my voices I used, so I think it's because the other one was too long-winded, but phrase-wise. But I got in there as Beast Wars Megatron.
Nice.
So it was kind of cool. Yeah. So I'm going to try and do more of that stuff in the future. I started doing more graphics so that I can start doing more YouTube videos, even though it looks like monetizing them is going to be difficult now.
Oh, yes, YouTube and its infinite stupidity, and that's a topic for a different day, man. We could talk about YouTube's copyright and monetization policies all day.
Uh-huh. I also saw a couple other things that had pertained to, like, this is kind of different note, but like the Star Trek new series that they're talking about that's going to be in the Prime universe might take place in like the 26th century, but we could talk that on Future Imperfect, hopefully.
Exactly.
Yep.
Welcome to the Wicked Radio Network.
Want to interact with the show? You can contact us in the following ways. You can call the voicemail line 502-526-5821. You can email us feedback@geekcastradio.com. You can visit the episode post on geekcastradio.com or alteredgeek.com. You can get a hold of us on Twitter @alteredgeek. Look for us every week on geekcastradio.com, of course, Stitcher Smart Radio, iTunes, BlogTalkRadio, and alteredgeek.com. And now, back to the show. Not really sure where else we can go from here.
Not really too much farther. I mean, I guess the only thing I really want to pimp out before I leave is if your listeners want to hear me live on the radio now, if you go to am640toronto.com or am640toronto is the best way to find it. Sunday nights at 7 p.m., I'm on the show Video Game Sophistry. This week, you should hear a review of Mario and Luigi Paper Jam, which is a new game for the 3DS. And then I think the week after that, I should be reviewing Lego's Marvel's Avengers. And then I'm not too sure what I'm doing after that, but typically they'll play my reviews towards the end of the show, and that's syndicated across the entirety of the Chorus Radio Network, as far as I've been made aware. So check local listings for that. And, yeah, that's pretty exciting, just the fact that I now get to hear myself on a regular basis now, because I was always doing stuff for them, but the show times kept rotating, so I never knew. So I'm rather excited with this. I'm actually rather proud. My segment is called Birdman Squawk Box, which Steve here is going to be doing the artwork for that, so I'm really excited to see what he comes up with for that. And I think my stuff should also be on the AM640 SoundCloud page at some point, or on the VGS page. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, this weekend, we were going to have our topic show. We were originally going to be doing something on Alan Rickman, but because death has been the predominant theme of the month of January, we're going to do something a little happier. So we're probably going to do our tribute to Patton Oswalt, because it was his birthday the other day. That should be sometime next week, because we're waiting on Roebuck, because I guess he just got a new job and just waiting to get a schedule figured out. So look for that. I should have a new episode of Nerd News tomorrow. I'm actually going to be interviewing the people behind the Kickstarter behind the new He-Man documentary, which reached its goal, I think, late last week. And I should have a new episode of Boss Roll that I've entitled When Things Go Wrong. Planning for that. There should also be a new episode of the Star Wars long-form campaign on TerribleWarriors.com coming out on Monday, or it's Furry Road, I'm not sure which one. And I pick up the new adventure with them. I record a new Star Wars game with these guys on Sunday, so that'll be out in just a few weeks for the continuation of the Embers of the Jedi campaign. So that should be fun. And hopefully we'll have Steve on the show at some point when we free up a slot, or he gets a Sunday morning free to play with us. So we'll keep you guys informed.
Yeah. And then as for myself, I'm of course going to be doing Altered Geek. I'm going to try and do some video shows coming up. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold, so it kind of sucks. I got the... I'm waiting with bated breath for this Masterpiece Optimus Primal.
Ooh.
Beast Wars. Because it's the 20th anniversary this year. I've been catching all the renders and the images that have been popping out of this. I'm hoping they release information on it soon, because I really want this. And I hope they have a Megatron on the way too, among other characters for the show. That being said, if you get Combiner Wars Megatron, the G1 one,
Yeah.
it's he is actually pretty freaking cool. I have not transformed it at all. I did get an upgrade kit for it. Because without the upgrade kit, he just looks funky. There's like a piece on his shoulders that it's basically kibble. So like it covers up part of the arm that shows the kibble, and then it covers up part of the ratchet joint that's in the arms that extend. And then there's a piece that you slide the feet into, and it makes his feet look like the G1 Megatron feet.
Nice.
And legs, so it's actually pretty cool. The funny thing is it sits as tall as the MP10 Optimus Prime.
Jesus.
But if you, without the upgrade kit, he doesn't. He's actually a head shorter, but he's still shorter than my MP01 Optimus Prime, which MP01 Optimus Prime is like the tallest masterpiece because it's the first. and I still have it. And he's like 3 heads taller than Combiner Wars Megatron, and Megatron's pretty friggin' tall too.
I wish I still had my Masterpiece ones, but hey, if I ever win the lottery or the Powerball, I'm getting all my Transformers back.
Yeah, just like everybody else here, we want to win the Powerball too, but nobody's going to win.
I shall be the one! I've won stuff before, I count on it.
It would be great, wouldn't it?
It really would be. I'm kind of hoping instead of winning iPads and random trips, I just want to win a rather large sum of money. But I'm hoping. I'm optimistic. Considering I spend like an hour a week just entering contests, and it's worked out pretty well so far.
And I do plan on going to some conventions that are coming up in the Detroit area in the next couple months. So,
well, hopefully you can find some time in July there and make your way up to Con Bravo. We'd love to have you. I think it'd be fun to do a panel with you. So let me know. You've got a place to stay.
Awesome. But yeah, until next time, we have been
Mike the Birdman Dodd. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under @BirdmanDodd.
And I'm Steve Megatron Phillips. You can get me on Twitter at SCP21. If you guys have any suggestions for content for next week's episode, let me know. I do have an idea of a topic to talk about, basically why we feel inclined to podcast and what it does for us. Because it's all kind of a funky... It's kind of a fun, funky reason why I do it, but I think it'd be something interesting to touch on at some point in the future. And if there are any guests you'd like to see on the show, please let me know too, because I'm interested in reaching out as well. So until next time, get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks.
Send Mike your love at TFG1Mike because furry addiction is serious business.